Thank you for that, Abbas. Now, that was Abbas Kudrati, the APAC Chief Cybersecurity Advisor at Microsoft, talking to us about end-to-end cybersecurity. Now, quickly checking to make sure that you are on your mobiles, typing away, ideally on the hashtag CISO Summit 2022. Lots of conversation happening there, and also some cool giveaways to many of you, and congrats to all the winners. And while you're letting us know what you're thinking, let's get to discovering if automation is a viable alternative to manage the skills shortage problem. We have Amrish Singh, CISO at Godrej and Boyce Manufacturing, Niranjan Reddy, CISO at Polycab India, and Sanil Nadkarni, the CISO at Byju's Future School. And they're joining us for this panel, which is moderated by, and plugging in from Sri Lanka, is Sujit Krishti, the director at Layer 7 Seguro Consultoria. Let's dive in.
Hello, good evening, everyone. And I'm excited to be with you to discuss about this very important topic, managing skills shortage. Is automation a viable alternative? So when I look at 2021, it appears to me that we took 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. Right? There's been a lot of excitement in the cyberspace. Work from home on one side, digital transformation, cloud adoption, then of course the cyber threats. And one specific one to name is ransomware threats. So when we look at the skills, right, and the discussions which everybody is having in every boardroom, in every forum, I want to base this discussion on a report which was generated by ISC Squared. They talk about the Cybersecurity Workforce Study 2021. So they are all indicating that there is a skills shortage. And one specific subject which they're talking about is a NICE framework. So the NICE framework talks about securely provisioning, analyzing, protect and defend, oversee and govern, operate, maintain, investigate, collect, and operate. These are different subjects within the framework. So I would like to start with Sanil, right? So we see, when we look at this framework, and I'm sure there are several other frameworks.
Yeah.
But when we look at a division within the workforce in an organization, how are you as CISOs coping with this skill shortage?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Sujit. Yeah, that's an interesting question. So there is absolutely a skill shortage, right, in terms of cybersecurity, right? And the answer to this is you just go onto any of the job portals, you will find plethora of openings around, information security, right? At any given point of time, we are hiring as we speak, right? So there is a skill shortage, right? And skill shortage, firstly, I would also dwell upon as to why there is, right? One is the tech landscape is changing, right? We are moving on the new age tech, right? Currently, we are moving on DevOps, and then we have DevSecOps and AppSec and blockchain and various other tech that we are working on. And therefore, what is also happening is that security needs to catch up to that pace. And therefore, it is increasingly important for us to have the right skill who understand security as well. First of all, understanding the technology, and then probably add value in terms of security as well, right? So there is definitely a skill shortage around those areas, right? There is skill shortage in application security, DevSecOps, IoT, blockchain, and so on and so forth, right? So there is this is real, right, as we speak, and especially the skill shortage is around 7 to 10 or around that experience as well. So one is that. Now, how we are coping with that, Sujit, is clearly, there are 2 or 3 strategies that we look at. One is, obviously, we try to hire the best of the breeds, right? We need to also increase the pool, right? So what happens is we would be poaching people from one, maybe let's say I'm in a startup, right? So one startup or one unicorn to another unicorn. But I think we as a CISO are also working in collaboration with a lot of other agencies to increase the pool, probably add value, add more knowledge base and increase the pool, one, right? Two is also the existing development or a tech or guys, we are training them to possibly understand security aspects and making them champions in the organizations and helping pave way to probably because they understand the underlying tech. So that's the second thing we are working. Third, Sujit, we are working on is primarily on certain areas, right, which are mundane, which would not require a very high skill set, right? But it's a mundane task or can be automated, like for example, SOC or any other alert mechanism where or incident responses where we are giving it to outsourcing partners so that they would take care of the headache and the iterations and various other process engineering, right? So that's one. And then we are deploying, so for example, a vulnerability management or other orchestration tools or to really, another issue for us is reporting, right? So we are looking at automation technologies to automate those aspects of it, like for example, orchestration, BAPT, IDAM, access management, then risk assessment, GRC, vendor management. All of these portfolios is something we look heavy automations around those, so that software also allows us to be more efficient, more repetitive, cheaper. And there's no headache of iterations and also the knowledge loss that if the person leaves, right? So that's the strategy that we are basically we are working on, so that automation should definitely help us as a way to probably look at the skill gap at certain level where there is mundanity and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much for those starting thoughts. And I just want to get a feel of how Niranjan thinks about the requirement right now.
Yeah. So skill shortage, yes. I mean, as it was also mentioned, I will go with, skill shortage because cybersecurity is such a vast domain and you have something called as core competency. So, to get core competency skill set of people is, again, a challenge. And it is something where, at certain times we think, can our existing team, develop those skills? But it's not so easy. You can't just put somebody, who's managing a firewall, to just look at an AppSec kind of a vulnerability which occurs and the thing. So that core competency skills is very niche. Those niche skills are quite difficult to get. Second, I would say is once you get it also now the boom of cybersecurity jobs is at its peak. Having a good, work environment and, nurturing them and, showing them a roadmap. I mean, I will say through my experience, when in my cybersecurity team, for example, if I have, a team, I need to, firstly give him the comfort level, 1 year, 2 years, what is his career growth he will get, joining me. So then he gets that comfort level, he knows. So even I get a feeling of he, sustaining with me for 2 years, whatever, inputs we have to put in, developing certain niche skills, even though he would be having the baseline of these things, because technology is always evolving. So there are new things which are, getting introduced. So, we need to value add them also to, be abreast with the latest technology. So it is an overall management which we need to do, look at both ways. One is looking at the careers so that they sustain, because, when a key resource leaves, I mean, it is like a, vacuum which gets created because a new person coming in, understanding the environment, and then, I'm talking of like senior resources, junior resources, fine. I mean, you could have the thing. So you need to, what I've started learning from this is always keep a plan A and plan B. Okay. So in case somebody is, has an emergency and he's not there. So dependency on that skill or that person, to do the task is not dependent. So you have the other person who can, actually take over and do it. Second thing I would also say is there is something called as MSA, the managed resource service, where people outsource their activities and there's a lot of automation in that. Okay. So that also can be one part where like you have your service desk, which is there. So there could be things done manually, which you can actually use this kind of an automation, which is going to save time, employee time, where you have these you have this scripts which are there as bots to, for the basic, problems you have in your infrastructure. If somebody is coming, the printer is not going to connect. So, you feed in with certain like use cases kind of a thing. So that automation also has some kind of a productivity, I would say, rather than depending on humans. I mean, human intervention, of course, is there. I'm not saying the AI and machine learning, which is, there, completely replacing human, but of course, it's going to, give us, a better way to solve things, which would, save on time rather than having, physically a person coming and doing the task. So this is an overall aspect which I feel the shortage is there, and we need to, sustain, build up the skills, sustain, have the employees, sustain in terms of the knowledge what they have, and give them a good feel factor so that they're there with us for a long time, and again expose them to whatever is there. So this is the way I look at the things.
Sure, thank you, Niranjan. So Ambarish, I mean, just coming to you on the same question, I think what we are hearing is, yes, there is a skills shortage. Yes, there is a need for automation. Do you also experience the same thoughts?
Yeah, so I echo what Sanil and Niranjan said, but I'll just take one step back. What has led to this? Okay, if we talk about 20 years back, okay, we had IT resource skill shortage. Then everyone started doing BTech in IT and computer science, and today we have flood of we have resources. There is no shortage of skills in IT per se or development per se. Okay, because there were the industry requirement, there's a trigger from the industry, there's a career options, and as a graduate after BTech, etc., people are looking for the job. And you feel maybe down the line, and today also, everyone is 80%, 70% people are doing computer science, because we have bunch of job in IT sector. First thing. Second thing, this problem is not for us. Okay, it's the entire industry. Okay, that from security industry is facing this skill shortage. Why? Because see, there is something called fungibility of the resources. Okay, if you have the developer is a fungible resource. Okay, he can develop if he knows one language, he can develop certain things in another language because he learned that. Okay, but what we are having an issue is in cybersecurity, the fungibility leverage is not there. Okay, like suppose in our team, like we have various skills, as Niranjan was talking about. Like suppose we have application security skills, somebody data protection, somebody network security, somebody cloud security. Okay, if you ask cloud security guy to do data security, data protection, he'll not like it, because it's not his skill set, because his skill set are totally different. Okay, because their JDs are different, what they are doing is totally different. We talk about application security and GRC, correct? Ask GRC guys to do application security, he cannot do it. Correct, because it's totally different. Ask the application security guy, technical guys who are doing VAPT and red teaming, etc. Ask him to write a policy, he will not move a single line ahead. We'll say, why this is the process? I am interested in technology. Okay, so that fungibility problem is there. Okay, now addressing that, what Sanil and Niranjan is saying, there are a couple of options we have today. One is the automation. So wherever possible, do automation. Like suppose you have some DLP, you can do RPA. People have done it. Okay, so RPAs are there, they are helping SOC, Sunny talked about SOAR, etc. Okay, and Niranjan talked about maybe a security help desk, IT help desk, where people are doing a lot of automation. Okay, second thing is outsourcing. So if you are facing very critical issue, outsource certain activity for certain time and then keep hiring. Okay, third thing is what I strongly feel is we have to build that pool, what Sanil was talking about. So now you see a lot of universities are offering a full-fledged cybersecurity courses. Okay, if students are coming up, they know there is a career in cybersecurity because there is a demand now. Okay, if it's the last 2 years, demand in cybersecurity has gone multi-fold due to the digital transformation which has taken place, which could have taken maybe 10 years. Now it has happened in 2 years. Okay, and suddenly demand for the cybersecurity skills has gone multi-fold. Okay, as Sanil was talking about, you go to any job portal, you get a lot of triggers. Go to LinkedIn, bunch of jobs are there. And that's why I say it's very difficult to retain also to the employees what you have. Okay, it's a challenge for the CISOs, and market is very hot. Okay, so it's another challenge. So thereafter, it's important to collaborate. Hire collaborative universities, because a lot of universities are asking CISOs to come expose the students what is the cybersecurity career they have. They may not be knowing, they just read, they are doing something YouTube and they're understanding the VAPT is only a cybersecurity. Because hacking is a very passionate about, they say they want to get into some system because they are young, correct? They want to hack something, correct? And and hire freshers and nurture them into cybersecurity game. I have my team, a couple of freshers, and they are doing extremely well. Initially, we have handled on them. They were fresh, correct, and they were just you make them understand what is cybersecurity and exposed to the various skills in your team, and they pick up. And one or two guys are doing extremely well. Okay, so these are thoughts, initial thoughts in my mind.
Great thoughts, right? So I want to back your thoughts with some statistics. The World Economic Forum is talking about future jobs, and they are reporting that 50% of all employees will need to be reskilled by 2025. Right? That's a very short time. I mean, in IT parallels, right? 3 years will just go like this. 40% of current workers' core skills are expected to change. That is also a challenge for all of us, right, when we wear the CISO hat. So there's also another aspect to it, right? So now we are looking at reskilling people, and there is also going to be a change in the job function. Right? So while the universities are providing this basic education, it's also important that they stay current with the market needs, right? So that's also a challenge. Now, there's another statistic which I also want to bring it up for your discussion. Gartner also predicted that 60% of the digital businesses could suffer a major loss due to the inability of the security teams. So, because of their inability, they will not be able to manage the digital assets, right? And the digital assets estates are now widespread, and all of you are part of large organizations, right? When I say that estates, like even the individuals, he can be in a very remote place. Managing it becomes difficult. The other aspect, we've been hearing about the great resignations. And the reasons what people are giving for the resignation is that they want flexibility. The other thing they are talking about, better work culture. And the other one is psychological safety. The last point I want to make it as an observation, the IC Squared's report also says that the security professionals seem to be very content and happy with the work environment. Now, on the other hand, the threat landscape has increased the workload for us. Now, maybe 20 years ago, we probably had about 100, 200 alerts. Today, it can be millions and millions of data. So on one side, we are talking about people. On the other side, we are talking about automation. Where do you see this actually coming to a point it will meet and say, okay, we are on top of this? So shall we go with Ambarish first and then quickly go around to the others to get a view?
See, security is a ever-changing goalpost. The goalpost is always changing, okay? And I keep saying the game which we are in is not fair. Attack is looking at one vulnerability and you are trying to fix all the vulnerabilities. So game itself is not fair, okay? And you say 100% coming together, skill gap, technology, and you understand the threat landscape will never be there because this is always changing. Okay, that's why it's a challenge for the CISOs and the organization. Okay, because be on top of it, you need to be really sure what you're doing and what. Basically, first of all, you should understand in which business you are. Okay, you cannot take something which as others are doing and you also probably you like to do. Correct. Something which is relevant to the new age organization may not be relevant to the somebody in education field or somebody in manufacturing. Okay, so it's dependent upon your threat landscape, understand the business, and drive or devise your roadmap accordingly. Keep reviving your roadmap because that cannot be static because threat landscape has changed. We talk about last 2 years, 80% of people have gone for the ransomware protection, correct? And still people are there. A lot of people have not gone for. Okay, why people have gone for? Because they see that the real threat is coming. Okay, and that's why they have evolved. If we talk about last 2 years, I personally seen, we never thought the call center will operate from home. Today's call centers are operating from home. Okay, and then when I while looking at the various data protection mechanism and malware protection mechanism, there are fantastic solutions which came out and people started adopting it. Okay, like a bunch of VDI solutions which evolve, which can protect your data, and there is a gap, the air gap between your network and their network, and those kind of protection. Okay, the third thing what I see is this is a continuous journey. We need to continuously look at what is happening in and around the world. As you rightly said, in the educational institution, universities, I think they also realize that they need to be in constant touch with what industry is doing, what is the demand is coming up, where the future is going. That's why you see today, if you talk about non-lab, before 5 years, there were no really good institution for the cyber security, maybe AI, ML, etc. Right? And today, you see a bunch of universities are providing that. So it shows that they're also in touch, but pace could be different because the industry is moving a little more faster and they have got their own space to move on. But I think they are coping up. There's a plus sign there. However, we as a security professional, whenever we get chance, we should give a right feedback to those people so that they understand and they do the course correction at right time. Yeah.
Niranjan, any different thoughts from you?
Yeah, I have a few things. I mean, couple of things which I would want to add more to what has just been told. Firstly, I mean, when we talk about security, for an organization, or you outsource it to a third party, and even if I go to the management and tell, you cannot assure 100% security. That is the open truth. I mean, how much ever you do and whatever, you still have that gaps which would remain, and which would could be exploited and you could be hacked. But the level as to what we need to look at is to see how difficult we make it for external attacks to come, where we have something called as layered defense. Okay, but again, that would depend on the budgets which is being allocated by the management of companies to build that kind of a robust either say. That is about the technology part, or what we talk of cyber security. Now skills, I mean, if you talk, I mean, now what has happened is, if you look at the courses which are available and all of that, I mean, you have really hands-on courses, like you have the OSCP and all that. So when we look for skill sets, we look at those kind of skill sets, because the way the courses are being built, it is basically like, see, even tomorrow, if I want to recruit somebody for a hardcore security technology, I'll not ask him questions. Okay, I'll give him a lab kind of a thing. I'll tell him, this is what I want. This is the laptop. This is the open source set of tools. This is what your goal to achieve is. I'll give him say probably 45 to 60 minutes, and I will check out his skill sets. If he's able to do that, then I know that's the kind of person I want. I'm not saying this could be a common recommendation for all recruitment or anything, but certain things. Maybe if I want to do a red teaming, for example, I want to have a blue team and a red team in my organization, for example. So I need to look at niche or core skill people which possess. So this is the way, I mean, you need to test. So then that this guy has really got those skill sets, because it's more of showing your demonstrating your skill sets and performing from that. So that is one part. And second is the syllabuses which are there, like cybersecurity. There are a lot of courses which are there, or even in our colleges. I mean, if you see abroad, I mean, I've been speaking at couple in the past, Malaysian university, they have a chunk of security, cyber security as a mandated subject, which in our whatever engineering and BTech is there is not. I mean, it may be as an option, I'm not too sure right now, but they make it as a mandate, so that basic cyber hygiene starts from the college days. Okay, so even whether they use it as a career, or they go to need to adhere to whatever domain they go, like even if they go for software developer. I mean, I've seen the software developers just look at what the design is, what is the outcome, and the GUI interface. But they should also consider the SDLC, life cycle, putting in some basic security framework as they build these applications. So just being developers and then you call your, pen testers, that could, it'll be much lesser vulnerabilities if you found if the developer itself had some basic, security and put in the right security frameworks while building the application. It becomes much more easier. So these are certain things where, we could leverage up security from the build itself. This is in case of your mobile application, or you're talking about this thing similar with IoT. Also, you can do it from the build, do a functional testing, and then you follow the standard frameworks and all that, which is not happening nowadays. Even if I want to take an application of third-party vendor, for certain some kind of an automation there, he says we've developed it. This is what it is. Then we ask them, are you is it been compliance certified, or is it being security tested? They say no, we never even considered. So that becomes a challenge, because now with compliance becoming such a mandate, and you need to maintain all these checks. So those things become even more necessary for the vendors whom we pick up to also do this, or they outsource a third-party company and get it validated, so that we are sure that we're buying a safe application. Data privacy law, data localization, that also is becoming a big this thing now. So when we look at cloud service providers, we want the data of us to be in the Indian or the Indian or the Asia Pacific region, rather than being in Europe and American cloud base. So these are all the aspects what I think is necessary, and we need to consider and go about.
Yeah. Samuel, any thoughts you want to add before I ask the last question from everyone?
Absolutely. I think, then we need to deal with these three problems differently, right? So one is, why are people leaving, right? So we need to have a strong hook, right? For startup, it could be ESOP. So for larger company, it could be on-site, and so on and so forth. So we need to continuously keep, it's not for security, but any employee, keeping them engaged and showing them a long-term path, right? Especially every company will have their core employees, right? They need to be retained, right? You have that Pareto principle, right? So that's one. So that's how we keep the employee engaged, right? So that's important for any leaders, irrespective of security. That's one, right? Second is great resignation, which is happening primarily because of, and we had our meetings as well, right? A startup will have a lot of young people, and they are right now bachelors, so they'll be moving out of the city and place. So we are observing, right? As Amrish also said, that things are changing. So the industry is also closely watching what will happen, right? We may lose our good skill set people if we call them to the office, or some role required, like security. I also believe security requires a lot of collaboration with various other teams, right? They may need to talk to AppSec, dev, infra, business, so and so forth. So it's imperative for them to understand, talk to each other, understand they're keeping pace with the development and all of that. So that is also a challenge, and we need to be empathetic towards employee also, that okay, can we have a hybrid model, can we have some model? So that's how we can tackle the second problem. Now what happens is, even if we lose people, as I said, automation tools, tech will help us. Having a good allies in terms of our partners, as I said, we also have a very good blend of certain contractors always in the system, right? Because then what happens is, if somebody suddenly mass resignation, we have some people latch on to, they understand my ecosystem so well, certain vendors, that they can immediately pull few resources for me and can help us, right? And then there are certain tools and technologies that can scale up faster, that can solve smaller problems, so that, at the lower end of the pyramid, always I believe, which will not involve too much of decision making, right? The starters, the freshers, and all, tools and technology and process should take care of it. Even if a person leaves, process should self heal it, right? But at a mid level, that's where the challenge always is, because they have a lot of talent. So we also should have succession planning. If one person leaves, another should pick up, and also the automation to make sure that also picks up and solve the problem. So I think these three things, if we look at individually and then holistically solve the problem, that will help.
Sure, Sai. Thank you so much. That I'm coming to you, right? And I'm looking for very brief answers, like something like a rapid fire. Okay.
Yeah.
So all of you all said that outsourcing is an option. Right? And let me bring the context of managed security services provider, and that's been a big business in the past. Now today, organizations such as yours, mine, and I'm sure our peers, we are heavily invested into security. And with the cloud adoption, we are looking at security in the cloud. Do we still see the relevance of an MSSP? Because one specific point I want to highlight here is, we've always had these thoughts, or probably our colleagues would always say, I don't really know what these guys are doing. Right? Because they send a report saying, okay, we addressed 100 alerts or 100 incidents. That comes at the end of the month. Now, how do we see this, right? Very briefly, one or two
Yeah.
thoughts, Rajat, so
Sure.
that we quickly
See, yeah. Firstly, I mean, I'll say, you can experience this by before getting into a, MSP, build your own team. I mean, have your own employees, managing and seeing this, and then see the kind of challenges. I mean, this again, I'm considering somebody, leaving the organization, then the other guy coming, taking over, understanding. So, you have that kind of a challenge which you will need to, suffice in this day. Again, the pool of resources. I mean, if I really have to maintain that, I, need to have, multiple people, doing, with the dual roles, which they're playing, so it becomes more tedious for me in terms of the cost to maintain that kind of a team and have it. Whereas in MSP, what happens is I have, done a SLA, or I've done a agreement with them stating, mentioning, the uptime. I mean, whatever goes wrong, I mean, this is the minimum amount of time you're going to get it up, and whatever the challenges are there. So it's completely outsourced, and it is being taken care by them. Suppose I'm having it on cloud, for example, if I'm on Azure or AWS cloud and having my application running on it, there is some issue which happens. So coordinating, because there is something called as you have to raise a ticket with the SI, then to the OEM, and then there's a lot of things. So all that headache, if I'm going to have my own team sitting and doing that, then there'll be intervention where pressure coming from top is what is wrong, how much time is it going to take, that internally, I mean, I will have more challenge. But in the MSA, it becomes much more peaceful. Again, choosing the right partner would again be the right decision to make and things. So this is something which will be worthwhile. I mean, the MSA service. Yeah.
thank you. Amrish, anything you want to add?
Yeah, sure. I echo what Niranjan said. I'll add. See, relevance of MSSP will be there, and it is going to be there. Every organization, like take example of SOC, so Niranjan were talking about. See, a lot of organizations have in-house SOC, and a lot of majority of the organizations outsource SOC. See, SOC is a very area. Suppose you do risk assessment when you want to have in-house or you want to outsource. Okay, it's a niche area. Okay, advantage is, see, you cannot do all the automation, all the what do I say, tuning, etc. on the whatever the platform it is. Yourself, it will take time. You'll go till the time to achieve that maturity is very high. If you have an MSSP who has a bunch of clients and you are going to live with a common platform where he is investing in people, training, and they're looking at various use cases which can leverage upfront. Okay, a time to get into maturity life cycle is very less. As Niranjan said, it depends upon what kind of SLA is one piece. Second piece, how do you ensure that MSSP does not feel that they are an outsourced partner? They feel they are a part of the team. Okay. So what I do personally, probably I make a time on a video call. I connect with my SOC analysts, those are monitoring my SOC. So they feel that they are part of the team rather than just like a shadow. Somebody is on cloud. They also feel that some organization is there and we are monitoring something for them. They have never seen me. They have never seen my team. So I make a point, you don't feel that you are extended team and you are doing a great job for us. Then feel them empowered. Okay, and that is how it will going to happen. And as you said, they are monitoring tickets, etc. Probably that is the daily work. But we get into very fruitful discussion how this has happened. If something, there is some incident, how we have closed, what are the use cases we have. So those kind of cadence are already built in. Okay. And we always do evolve around it. We do cyber drill, etc., involving them so that they become a part of the team.
Yeah. Okay. So in other words, making them part of your team,
yes,
feeling inclusion, right? So
sure,
that's the point. Sanil, very briefly, right? Because we just need to go in for the. Yeah.
I think building relationship with the vendors and making them part of our team is very important.
It's very, very important.
That's important, and you build good rapport because you can't build everything on your own. Remember, in India, especially, cost is one of the key factors where incomes in security, right? So that's very important. You build relationship, make them part of it, and train them, learn with them, engage them, and so that they understand your ecosystem so well. And also one of the last thing is, it's not a renter, but more of an owner kind of a mindset. With if the vendor has, right, that even the vendor should feel that I am part of his ecosystem equally, and my role is to kind of help the CISO on his job and his team to create value. So that's important. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we are just a few minutes to wrap up this session. So in closing, right, I want to ask you a very futuristic question, right? Probably if you can answer in one word, it'll be nice. If let's say there is no gap, skills gap, where would you spend that money?
No skill gap, probably I'll invest whatever the money I have, invest in technology and training people and invest heavily on the awareness of the employees.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I'm doing.
Awareness.
I will go with employee welfare. I mean, giving them, some benefits and, for them to be retained or, have a good work culture. So I will, look at that as a thing. And, if something more is there, invest on some, good technology products and yeah.
Yeah. I think I'll give them all the money to them.
Wow.
Yeah, because I'll get peace. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing wrong, right? I mean, if you can make them feel part of your organization, equal stakes or more stakes, their welfare, their family's welfare, right? And maybe their well-being. And I think all this is going to make a difference. Gentlemen, it was an absolute pleasure to have been speaking to you on this very important topic. Right? So there were lots of thoughts. And I think in essence of time, we are not able to talk beyond this, but I'm sure we will be able to discuss this in another forum or maybe on another chat, right? So thank you all of you for joining in and listening to these thought-provoking ideas, which all three of my panelists have shared with you. So continue to invest in people, look at your processes, identify critical and non-critical processes, prioritize them, and see those repetitive tasks are automated. So you can actually then streamline and have a better visibility, better control over your security infrastructure. So with that note, I want to thank you again and stay safe and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.